Greetings and salutations, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. Today I have a assortment of terrifying encounters along with a interview. These encounters are all military related, including the interview. Before we get into it, a couple links. As you know, I rely on Patreon, PayPal, and my merch to help the channel to continue to grow and go. The links to Patreon and PayPal are in the description below. My merch displayed directly under the video. Also, Dogman, Frightening Encounters, Volume 1 through 3, the audiobook versions. They were written and researched by Tom Lyons, narrated and produced by me, Jeff Nadolny. Those audiobooks are available on Audible, Amazon, and iTunes, so links to which are also in the description as well. And finally, last but definitely not least, if you'd really like to help support this channel to continue to grow and go, simply subscribe. It's absolutely free. It does not cost you a penny. Click that like button and please leave a comment. It really does help, and guys, it definitely matters. Now, everyone, I have taken far too much of your time. Let's get on with today's terrifying, yet informative upload. Shall we? All right, everybody. Today I have a guest on. I did a upload a couple weeks ago, or about a week ago, and he commented, and his comment was, "I've seen some stuff in Iraq." I sent him a comment and I said, "Hey, here's my email. Please get in touch with me. I'd like to hear what you saw over there." Tonight I have a guest, and his name is Lewis. He is an Iraqi war vet. It's a pleasure having you on, Lewis. How are you?
Thanks, Jeff. All right, well, this happened in Iraq around 07. It was outside the city of Ramadi in a camp. I won't give you the camp's name. There's different ones, so we'll keep that private. The day that this happened, we were supposed to go on a raid. It's on this town. I guess supposed to be insurgents activity and stuff like that. So the next morning we had to have the full attack force tanks, M1s, Bradleys, Black Hawks, Apaches, all that stuff. On the way to the staging area, which is outside the town, the little town. It's not really a town, just a bunch of mud huts. And we were supposed to stage outside the area where there were some canals. In Iraq, they got these canals they use for irrigation. They're pretty deep. I mean, if you fell in there, good luck, because they are pretty deep. I mean, the water's pretty much not that deep, but they're down there. There's a lot of marsh. It's like a marsh, tall grass, and it drops about maybe 6, 7, 8 feet, somewhere deeper. There's like a little bridge made out of sand over a large, I'm gonna say like a pipe, but it's not really a pipe. It's really big. You pretty much can go in there just so the water can flow from one side to the other, and they usually so they can cross. Vehicles go through. They're wide enough for an M1 tank to go by. And they still have about 2, 3 feet on either side when the tank crosses. We were supposed to stage on the other side of the canal, but to our misfortune, one of the tanks threw track. Usually when they throw track is on the outside and the track just comes off. This one threw it on the inside, so it jammed up. So now we got to cut the track. So with the pressure it has, it won't come loose. So we got to cut the track, take the links off, and then the tankers would put it back together. I was the TC of the 88 M1 Herc, and our first sergeant told me that after we had already fixed the tank, that I was going to be the sergeant of the guard. So what that entails is that pretty much I have to make sure that the guys that are staged in a semicircle or up. At least 2 guys up the vehicle, make sure they're awake so we don't get ambushed at night or whatever. You know, you don't want to get ambushed when you're going to go on a raid. It's a big no-no. So all I had to do was to just go around and make sure everybody had people awake, eyes out, make sure you're ready for pretty much anything. So this particular night was very interesting because as I'm walking towards, well, let me explain how the medic track ended up on the other side of the canal. There's a drop, like an incline going down maybe about 10 feet. So if you're standing at the bottom, you can't see on the other side. You're pretty much looking up. Or the medic track was a 113, ended up on the other side of the canal. The 88 was maybe about 30 yards back, but you could see from the top where they have the 50 cal mounted. You could see the top of the 113. And as I'm walking toward there after I'd done one of the rounds, I get to the edge where it starts to decline. It starts going down. And then there's the hill goes up about 4 feet, and the 113 was on the other side. Now, this is the canal crossing where I'm going to start heading down. As I'm coming right at the edge, this thing comes out from the marshy area, like the grass. There wasn't much movement, but you see something come out. It's dark. I got my night vision on, one eye closed because you got to keep night vision in case you got to pull that thing up, and so you can still see because that green light will blind you if you lose all your night vision. So you got to keep one eye closed. So I'm looking at this thing that's coming out, and it's a comparison to a lion. It was way bigger than a lion. I don't know. I've never seen a lion that's 10 foot long. Or maybe more, because it's pretty much encompassed almost the whole crossing. It was big. It was big, tall. But even though it was tall, maybe about 4 feet tall, he was still in this position where, like, you see a cat and he's creeping and he's going to pounce on something. Yeah, I don't know. I'm pretty sure you guys know. They're crouched down, like, really low. Their elbows are by the back, and they're still moving. Well, he's doing this, and I figured, shit, this thing's gonna hit the medic track or attack it or whatever the hell this thing's doing. He's looking at it as he's coming out, and it's long. And when I say it's a cat-like, well, cat-like, like a cat, but not. The reason I say that is pretty much everybody knows cats' tails, the way they move, may seem like this movement of a snake. Well, this thing, its tail, it's more like a snake, but it's having the same movement, but he's got it upwards, almost like a scorpion tail. And not a scorpion tail, because on the tip of the tail, it's got this weird-looking head, like a snake head. And it's moving on its, I'm not going to say on its own, because you know how cats move, the movement they do, but this thing, I mean, it's a head. It's not bushy. And I couldn't tell if it was bushy because night vision, the thing's about 20 yards from me, maybe 15 to 20 yards. But it has its own movement, like the tip moves like a head looking around. This thing comes out, looks towards the 113, and I mean, I don't know what it is, so I'm like, what the fuck is that? Or put it that way. But that's what I said. And this thing turns around, looks at me, and he's pretty much about as shocked as I was, because now he knows somebody's seen him. It seemed like he was disappointed that I was there. Or, I don't know. It was just a weird situation. He looks at me, he starts going round and round. Cats are locked up from one side to the other, like a caged jaguar or panther, from one side to the other. But he's looking at me and he looks to the ground, and at the same time, his tail is pretty much doing the same thing, like looking towards me. And, well, I got my M4. I'm still wearing my full battle rattle helmet, bulletproof plates on and everything. But I'm thinking, as I'm looking at this creature, I'm not going to say it's an animal as far as the animals go, because animals don't look that way. I'm thinking this SOB is going to get me. If I start shooting, the 88 behind me, he's got the 50 cal, not towards where the 113 is, but that's at the limit where his range limit to fire is pretty much. So if I start shooting, they're going to shoot this way, especially if they see this thing on me or whatever. So they're pretty much screwed. I'm stuck there just looking at this thing. And, well, at that moment, I was pretty much screwed. I couldn't see the medics in the back of the 113. I'm guessing either they were down or probably asleep, most likely. I'm not going to throw them under a bus, but those motherfuckers were asleep. And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess pretty much that's it. This thing's going to fucking eat me. But right before anything happened, once he turned towards me, now, when he turned towards me, his tail wasn't wagging anymore. It was more set up like a scorpion towards me. I didn't tell you that, Jeff said about that. Yeah, but when he faced me, his tail was towards me, and it wasn't moving anymore. He was pretty much ready to do business, I'm guessing. The only thing that came to my lips at the time, I was pretty much, I'm going to meet the Lord now. So I'm like, holy Jesus, please help me. At that moment, I'm guessing the creature didn't like that. When I said, holy Jesus, please help me, because he looked kind of upset, and you could hear like a low growl. And he turned towards the marsh, he looked at it, looked at me, and then went back in it. Well, to my bad luck, I guess, I still have to go see the medics. So now I got to go towards where this creature was. So, you got to man up, right? So, fuck it. Just make sure I'm creeping slow, pointing my weapon towards where the marsh is, the little marshy area. I get to the medic track, I knock 2 up, nobody answers. I go towards the front, climb up on top, and they're out. So I get up there and start bitching them out. It's not a situation where you're just gonna. It's not like we're going camping. So you shoot the shit, go to sleep. The next day we go for the hunt. It's not like that. You stay awake. It's pretty much one guy with a knife will be taking those guys out. So I get back down. I head towards where the Humvee is, up on Humvee. That's the command vehicle. First sergeant's in there. I didn't want to sound like a nutcase. So before I went to the Humvee, I told the medic, keep an eye out for dogs. What am I going to tell them? So, and people, something out there that could hurt them or hurt us, anyone. So I left them. They're going to stay up now. And headed over to where the Humvee was. I talked to the guy that's on the Humvee on the Crow system. And I asked him to keep an eye towards the little marshy area because I had seen some type of animal. I told one of those dogs, what am I going to tell him? I think dark and Pollock was, I mean, if he sees a blotch of heat, I mean, he can shoot, hopefully take him out with the 50. But, yeah, then, like I said, my misfortune, I was sergeant of the guard, so I still have to continue roving. I was hoping that was it. It was like just a chance encounter. Seen the thing, it's gone. A few weeks later, you forget it even happened. Walked over to the 88 after going around the tanks and letting them know to keep their heads up. They're watching on their own system. They got the night vision and infrared, whatever heat sensing systems they got. They also have the stare, which if something's crawling towards you at night and you can't see, all you see is the heat signatures, even though it might be camouflaged somewhere where they can hide it. It'll still leave a trail on your screen that something is moving out there. So I was good with that. I was like, all right, these guys are good over here. So I headed over to the 88 and I told the guy on the 50 to keep an extra eye out over to where I was going. If something happens, to wait until I get out of the way if he's got a fire. Right? So I figured, I'll get a chance to maybe this thing will attack me. He'll jump up. Hopefully I can move fast enough, shoot, and the 50 cal can take him out. Still didn't tell the guy what the hell I saw, or I just told him to keep an eye out there because it was weird. Those are my words. It was weird. Just keep an eye out there. So I headed back again as I come over to the area. You better start going down. It was weird because it was just meant to be. We made up again. This time I had already taken a couple of steps down. The creature comes up. He seen me, and I said, "What the fuck again?" And you could tell, like, I don't know, animals disappointed or something that he got seen. He did his couple of turns and jumped back into the marshy area, and that's the last time I saw him. I thought it was just going to be that one time, but no, he let me know that, yeah, he was there. It was, yeah, holy shit.
Yeah, that's definitely. Now, when you and I first started talking, you had shared with me that you have seen, while you were in Iraq, you had seen, a full-grown male lion. And
yes.
So how big lions are. And this thing was huge. I mean, this creature that you saw in the canal was just...
Oh, those maybe about 2.5 times as long, taller than the lion.
Yeah.
The lion standing on all fours. Yeah, he was taller than that.
So
he was way taller.
This was definitely,
but I mean,
like 12 feet long, maybe 11 feet long.
About 11 feet long, not counting the tail, or the tail snake, where the frick that was.
Now, the face of the creature, because you refer to it as cat-like, because the reason why you refer to it as cat-like, just so other people know, is because of its crouching position, more or less, right? What was the face, not the face on the tail, but the face on the part that was looking at you, where you could see its eyes?
His head? Well, I'm not going to be politically correct when I say this, but it looked like a retarded cat. Kind of like a mushed up head. The mouth was wider than it was long. I mean, I could see his eyes. I know his eyes glued. They glowed. I could see the eyes with the NVGs when I raised it up to take a look. I mean, the sighting, it wasn't like a couple of seconds. We were there for a few minutes. I had enough time to raise my night vision, open my the eye that I keep closed so I can have night vision, and I could still see his eye. No, I can't say there was a moon out, and if it was like way on the horizon. So
that
it wasn't the glare of the moon or any light, because we have no lights. I wasn't walking around, not even with the red flashlight. Just the night vision. That was it.
Right. So that was my next question. That was my next question for you was there any light? And you just answered it. So this creature's eyes were obviously a glowing yellow color.
Yeah.
And
they're big. They were big. They're about maybe a little bit bigger than the golf ball.
Okay. Now the face or the head on the tail, was there any characteristics on that you saw, or?
Yeah, it was like a snake.
Like a snake.
It opened. It had a mouth. Now the like a I'll go as far as say not like, can't really tell if it had fangs or not, but it had a mouth. It opened it.
That's crazy. Now these are, you and I had we talked for about an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And this is just one of the crazy cryptid, I hate using the word monster, but that have been seen in the Middle East. And, like you said to me earlier, there's a lot of area to hide there because it's not like here. The population is spread out. There's a lot of caves. There's a lot of mountains. There's just terrain that we don't have over here.
Yeah, they can go for miles. If they move at night, you're not gonna see them. Yeah, you're not gonna see them. I mean, and they're I'm guessing they're fast. This thing was big. I mean, it wasn't skinny. Like gangly or skinny like a house cat.
Right.
No, it was a good killing machine if it wanted to.
Yeah, that's definitely right there is a definite strange sighting, and not what I thought it was going to be. Like
when after I seen it, I had try to go and look around to see cat-like creatures, and the only thing I came up with was a chimera, which the picture they have on Yahoo, well, they got a bunch of them, but the one that's closest to it is one that has the they put horns on this thing, but I didn't see any horns. There's a picture of one that's got like these talons on the feet. I can't say I saw talons, and then if it did have talons, I couldn't see them because of the sand. The sand is soft over that crossing. It's like powdery. So we could have dug I didn't see the feet. Like exactly, I didn't see the feet. I can't tell if they had claws. There was more the head and the tail. On Yahoo, they got a picture of one that looks almost like a lion with horns, and it got like a viper's tail. That's pretty much what I saw.
Yeah. I just looked it up really quick, and it's called the Chimera of Arizoa or Arazo, and it's like a big, huge lion.
Looks like a cat.
Yeah, huge lion-like creature with a viperistic looking tail. Very terrifying looking. Huh. Wow.
I mean, I used to joke around with people that saw Bigfoot, but holy shit. What did I see?
Yeah, definitely. Something.
I mean, it's weirder than Bigfoot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, two heads are better than one for killing, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. While you're distracted with one head, the snake head will poison the crap out of you, and those talons will rip you to shreds. Bring on the Dogman, right?
Yeah, exactly. Wow.
I mean, these things are crazy looking. Whew.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this with us. Couple of things, Lewis. Thank you for your service to our country.
Well, thank you.
You know, I mean,
it's not over though.
No, it's not. And thank you for coming on tonight and sharing this encounter. I really enjoyed just shooting the breeze with you, and then hearing this crazy encounter. I mean, I can't imagine what you must have been feeling like or thinking in your head.
Yeah, it felt like makes you feel like Jello.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there was another guy with an AK. Yeah, I've been flying. I mean, yeah, you might get me, I might get him. This thing, he's gonna get you.
Absolutely. Well, Lewis, is there anything that you'd like to say to the audience before we end the upload?
Yeah, I got a short message. You know, guys, a lot of people see different things out there. Some people might think they're crazy, they're making it up. I was one of them. After I saw that, anything that people say is out there could be out there. What I saw, that's some fairy tale stuff. But they're there. They're out there. What else can be out there? I mean, a Dogman? That's not that far-fetched. Bigfoot? Definitely not.
Right.
If these things are out there, and if that Kandahar giant is real, what else is out there? I mean, if we don't get our heads out of our booties, we're going to be in trouble when they decide to come out.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it might be sooner than later, and hopefully it's not, but who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe it is.
They got free reign. They can go wherever they want. I mean, there's caves. In caves, you can go across continents.
Yeah.
They can nonstop. They can come out of anywhere they want.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's a tale, I'll tell you.
No pun intended.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, yeah, no pun intended with the tale. Hey, I appreciate it, Jeff. I love your show. It's creepy, but things are out there, man. Appreciate you.
All right, guys. Wow, what a terrifying interview. Just a true encounter that just, oh, God. I mean, first you're dealing with war, and then you're dealing with a creature that you have never seen before. Something that is straight out of the movie's Clash of the Titans. Whew. Let's get into some other encounters. Tonight's first terrifying experience. I've been sitting on this for many years now. My aunt has owned a large piece of land, over 100 acres, in northwest Connecticut for many years now. Her property is located in a state park that is mostly uninhabited and only frequented by backpackers. Her land is well off any main roads, and we have to drive through a lot of forest to reach her home. She bought the land and remodeled an old house that was already built on it so that it was more livable. And going up to visit her always had been my favorite thing to do. I've been going up there yearly since I was a baby, and I've spent countless hours exploring the woods, creeks, and land around her home. We call it a farm, although it is not a true agricultural or livestock farm. My aunt does rescue miniature horses, alpacas, donkeys, and back in the day there were some ducks. The animals are on one part of the property where the area has been cleared out for them to graze, get fat, and be happy. The rest of the farm is untouched woods. In the early 2000s, she decided to install a 12-foot fence around the property, although it only encloses about 80 acres of the land she owns. She explained to me that she couldn't stand the sounds of the coyotes howling right outside of her window at night, and that she had some creepy encounters while living there. She didn't go into details of these at the time since I was a young child. She lives alone, so I understand why she wanted to feel a semblance of security in those deep woods. We are originally from the bayous of Louisiana, so being in this type of environment was new to all of us. Anyway, despite being initially unfamiliar with the land, I eventually learned to navigate the area very well as a child. I had my few favorite spots, and one was up on a small foothill in the deepest part of the woods. I would go up so often that eventually a small path was established in the brush, and I would bring my cousins with me to show them my little oasis. In 2008, when I was 10 years old, I took a summer trip to my aunt's and brought my best friend Alex with me. She and I would often take trips here together during our childhood, and this was not her first time accompanying me to the farm. I remember that we were in the woods at my favorite spot, sitting together and listening to Katy Perry while playing Doodle Jump on our new iPad Touches. This makes me laugh to remember, but we were just trying to enjoy some nature while getting our fill of new tech, I guess. We were there for a while enjoying ourselves and talking about random kid stuff when this shift in the air, almost like a suffocating stillness and silence, settled upon the woods. I paused the music and I looked to Alex, who was already staring at me with a concerned and worried expression on her face. We stayed still and silent for a moment, tilting our heads to listen to the woods and search out any of the familiar sounds that normally crescendoed day and night across the farm. There were no birds, no summer bugs, and the trees almost seemed to stand frozen in place, as if the light winds that normally rustled their leaves left us completely. It was a vulnerable, terrible feeling, and I knew Alex felt it as well. Then began the sound of footsteps coming from even deeper in the woods. It took a moment for me to determine what the sound was, but the distinct rhythm of weight being picked up and put down on leaves and brush was impossible not to notice. It was bipedal and heavy, and was coming towards us from a steep slope down the side of the mountain/footfall. I remember thinking that it was impossible for a human to move so easily through that part of the woods, since it was very thick with growth, fallen branches, trees, and rocks, even making it hard for an agile child to navigate, let alone a large adult. It felt as if the woods lie still and wait while these footsteps made their way swiftly up the steep incline toward us. "Do you hear that?" I asked Alex in a whisper, and she nodded. "It sounds like footsteps," I continued. She nodded again, looking like she was about to burst into tears. I took her hand and began running down our makeshift path with her, trying not to fall or let her lag behind me at all. We didn't stop until we reached the house. I don't think we told anyone that day because we were just too shaken to even comprehend what might have been out there with us. The next day I asked Alex if she would go back out to the spot with me. She was very hesitant at first, but eventually agreed, and said we could go look for signs of another human. We made on our way back, nervous but determined to discover what had invaded our little sanctuary. When we reached the spot, I looked down toward the direction we had heard the footsteps. I think I even slid down a bit to investigate possible indentations in the brush and leaves. I didn't go too far because I was about to lose my nerve, and I hadn't noticed much anyway, so I quickly climbed back up to where Alex waited nervously for me. We decided it must have been some sort of animal or a deer, despite every logical explanation indicating otherwise. I knew what deer sounded like, and this was no deer, but I wanted to forget and have fun. We took our iPads out and began the same ritual of relaxing and playing games while chatting about nonsense. It seemed that things were back in their natural order again, so we quickly forgot about the terrifying experience and let our naive, childlike wonder take over. After a little while, the stillness returned, and it happened so quickly it felt as if the forest took a gasp and never exhaled. This time the footsteps started almost immediately. They were louder and coming from a different direction. The best way I can explain their location is that it was in a similar spot to the day before, but somewhat more to the right, where the forest was very dark and the incline to reach us was less steep. I didn't wait too long to run, but it was long enough to realize that the sound was faster, closer, and definitely not a deer or a bear. I didn't look into the woods too closely because I wanted to get the hell out of there and was too scared to see whatever it was. I knew it was close enough that it would be upon us at any moment if we didn't flee, so without a word, Alex and I took off and ran as fast as humanly possible out of those woods. It's not a super exciting experience, but that is my first creepy experience in the woods. I have since had more, as I am an avid backpacker and love the outdoors, but the experience on her land had always been the most bizarre and unexplainable. A little more info on the experience. The area we were at was pretty far away from the main house and any other civilization. We asked my aunt if there were any men on the property, and she said no, there were not. She also confirmed that the gates were in working order, although it wouldn't be hard for a bear to breach them or for a fox to dig underneath them. Tonight's second encounter. I had a very strange experience in Congaree National Park outside of Columbia, South Carolina last winter. I lived in Columbia, South Carolina, and frequented Congaree National Park, so I'm familiar with the area. I often would jump the fence and walk the boardwalk at night, as it's super peaceful to walk the swamp and hear all of the wildlife. They never have a ranger or a guard posted up after hours, so I was always alone. The last time I did this was in October of 2021. I was taking my usual stroll with flashlight in hand. I should mention again, between the insects and frogs, the sound is loud. But then it completely stopped when I was about a mile in. I heard what I thought was my wife call me from the trail ahead, but she wasn't there. I was alone and she was out of town. I then heard water sloshing to my right and saw nothing with my flashlight. I chalked it up as to being tired and kept moving. The wildlife started up shortly after, and everything was fine. Maybe 15 minutes later, I noticed it got eerily quiet again, and heard swamp water sloshing to my left, but this time it was more deliberate, like someone or something walking. I was in a thick portion of cypress, and I couldn't see more than 20 feet in front of me. And then I heard my wife's voice again. Again, she was not with me. She's out of town, certainly not moving through the swamp at 1 a.m. I saw what looked like a human silhouette for a split second, but it was off. Very skinny, pale, and taller than me at 6 feet. I noped it out of there and ran the almost 2 miles back to my truck and didn't slow down until I heard the wildlife again. Like I said, this is a boardwalk that's in a swamp in the boonies. Nobody is walking around in the water at night without a light. And I don't know of any animal that big that walks bipedal patterns. And I've spent my life outdoors. I feel I should add that I wasn't high or sleep deprived. I just like the woods at night. I was so freaked by this. I felt I had to share this. Also, there is no way some meth head was stumbling through the swamp miles from civilization. That sounded like my wife. But then again, it's also South Carolina. Tonight's third encounter. In December of 2016, darkness came early to the woods of my home county, Kent. Mud splashed up my car as I assaulted the camber of a sordid country lane. The leaves on the ground had turned from pretty to pulp. The trees were bare and white. Familiar taste of poison was on the radio, and there was a perpetual tap of rainwater on the roof. In the back were two paranormal investigators, my lovely heathen girlfriend, I'm Catholic, but where I am meant to find a tiny bitty cryptid hunter goth at Mass, and her security guard friend who come on hunts with us and thinks it's cool. The air felt pregnant with anticipation as we pulled up in a lay-by. Let me explain, a few months earlier we had been driving through the same woods when there was still light in the evening, and that same girlfriend had seen something pale, humanoid and white moving through the trees. I didn't think much of it because I've been a paranormal investigator for 7 years, since the age of 18, and pale white humanoids are just a thing that can be found in the woods. Flip forward to that month, and we sighted an abandoned car on the edge of the woodland, a blue 2001 Rover. I ran its make, model, and number plate on the Vehicle Inquiry Service, taxed. I checked local crime records and Facebook posts, not stolen. Apart from scratches and bumps, there was no damage to the chassis or paintwork. Then not long after, I was driving through again. The woods are quite close to my house, and turned down a steep 24% gradient single-track road with few passing places. A half-ton stump of oak blocked the roadway halfway down. It had been pulled out of the ground. There was still earth on it, and there was no room for a tractor or a digger up there. Lorries haven't gotten a chance, so the hunting's on. That night, we had done the usual spiritual protection measures and carried big sticks and offloaded into the lay-by near a path that led into the woods. We pounded up a narrow defile after the introductory field, which opened to the lee of the main wooded overlooking a cleared valley, and then walked through. There were no problems at this point. We had heads on a swivel, sticks ready, and aside from the hooting of an owl and the occasional rustling, there was no sign of any creature awake. We filtered through a narrow single-file section of tightly packed trees, came to another field. We reached the path that led out onto the road, miles from our entry point. Nothing happened, so we spread out and started to nose around in the undergrowth, hacked through a few bushes, inspected a few runs and trails. Something bigger than any wild animal in the United Kingdom was about, and wait, those footsteps were of a biped. A small one, not the hulking thing my girlfriend had seen. Possibly a cryptid, possibly a fat chicken. We decided to retreat as the bushes, particularly holly, got thicker. A midget had a distinct home field advantage, but on the way back through the tightly packed bit, we began to hear something fouling. It didn't seem to come closer than the entrance. Then we heard movement off to the side, a jittery, uncertain sort of clack that didn't build up or slow down. It started, then stopped. Energetic, then not. The owl's hooting began to coincide with it, which slowly turned the owl from, just an owl, to a near constant presence in our minds. When we got back to the main wood, the clacking and rustling gathered pace and came from multiple directions, mostly from up the hill to our right. I volunteered to go back because, after an encounter in 2014, I really wanted to take a swing. But the gradual crowding of creatures implied that was not going to be an option. So as we began to run out of room, Even as we picked up pace, it became harder and harder to keep formation. I remembered a trick from my youth, an eagle scream. I did eagle impressions as a kid, using some tightening deep in the throat, and it was so loud and unexpected that the pattern of rustling was broken, as if our stalkers did a double take. We used that opportunity to have it away from our toes, back into the defile bordered by thorns and barbed wired fence, where we had the commanding position. They would have had to run at us straight onto the sticks. They didn't charge. Well, we heard them move sometime after the scream. They didn't come anywhere near the road, and the excitement had died down long before we reached the car. I've yet go back in, only because they don't seem to be that much of a danger. Farmers have seen them run across fields, but rarely. Dog walkers go through there all the time. There are horses in the surrounding fields, and a few homes on the edge of the forest. Tonight's fourth experience. So I'm sharing this hopefully to get some help identifying what I saw, because I've been trying to figure this out for about 3 years now. I was a United States Marine from 2014 till 2019. I deployed to the Philippines to help out some joint operations against ISIS after the siege of Marawi. Basically, all we did was stare at the top of the jungle canopy looking for heat signs, then communicating fire missions for artillery and putting warheads on foreheads. Anyway, we're like 3 months into our deployment, 4 hours into this mission, staring at absolutely nothing. We're about 12,500 MSL at the time over the mountains of Basilan with real thick jungle canopy. Even with IR, crap is hard to see. It's like trying to find needles in a haystack with Vaseline in your eyes. But when something's above the canopy, like a helicopter, birds, or monkeys in the trees, it pops, and you can get some good definition depending on how good the camera operator is. A good trick to know if you have a hotshot camera guy is if they can fine-tune the IR to see leaves in the canopy instead of a big gray-colored blob, and atmospherics. I was the camera guy, and I was just chilling, staring into the void. My pilot was burning circles into the sky for hours. I asked my officer in charge of the flight if I could go smoke while the pilot took over the camera, after I locked onto a geo point to keep the camera from going all over the place, and he said, yeah. So I went to smoke, and like not a minute later, I hear my boy inside flying go, dude, you might want to get back here and look at this. So I went back inside all ticked off because I hadn't even finished my smoke. But then I saw what my pilot had locked the camera onto. I hop back into the seat and take back control because I'm like, oh crap, hotspot? Is it a cow? Is it ISIS? But it's like definitely none of those things. It's flying just above the canopy at a pretty good clip, flapping and gliding on what I can only assume were very large pointed wings. At this point, it's just a very dark shape moving over the canopy until I clean up the IR image and start picking out more. At first I'm like, dude, it's just a big-ass bird, but then I see a rounded head at the front and a small space in between what I assume was a tail, making me think of legs. We're like at 12,500 MSL, so detail wasn't amazing, but you can make out general shapes. Like if I have a good day for atmospherics, light, and altitude, I can tell an RPG from an AK-47 if I'm lucky. Then my smart college-educated officer is like, check the measuring tool. Looks kind of big. We have a tool that uses geodata, altitude, and the aircraft's position, allowing you to use the laser and the program to let you know how long a distance is between 2 points. We mostly use it to measure buildings and artillery shot distances, but given we had the height of a canopy, We didn't see why it wouldn't work. So I took a screen cap of my cam and sent it to my pilot to work on while I was still on lock. He does math and comes up with roughly 6 foot in length, head to toe, and like a 17-foot wingspan. As I watched it fly, I kept thinking, that looks like a bat. Just the way it flapped and moved, that general shape, not like a bird. I couldn't pick up feathers, and I didn't see a tail. Its wings definitely came out like angular and stretched, just like a bat's. Me and the crew talked about it, passed it up to a higher level, but eventually we had to actually go and do our jobs instead of becoming amateur zoologists. But after that flight, I just couldn't shake the feeling or place what the hell that thing was. Fun fact, the tree right next to our smoke pit is absolutely filled with fruit bats, and it glows in the IR. So me and my pilot got curious and started asking the local Philippine contractors who worked at the Chow Hall and the PX. A bunch of them laughed and told us it's because we stay up way too late since we work the night shift. But a couple of the older ones told us about the tick-tick, like some kind of big old flying MFer that eats babies. And I was like, oh, that seems to check out. In an effort to disprove giant baby-eating man-bats, I'm hoping someone can, come up with an answer. Tonight's final experience. I'd like to start off by saying this was told as a second-hand recall, as my best friend is not comfortable sharing. We'll call my best friend A for privacy reasons. Well, A and I live on the edge of our town in Wisconsin in this little cul-de-sac surrounded by woods. So it's not uncommon to see wild animals such as turkey, deer, fox, especially coyotes. Last year, when she first spotted the coyote that seemed too big to be a coyote, she didn't think too much about it and assumed some old lady thought it was a dog and was just feeding it. Well, towards the end of the winter this year, she saw it again, this time similar to the last. She noticed that something was off about this random coyote and pegged it off as a large coyote she saw during the summer last year. So, a bit of context behind A. She has a 2-year-old and is a smoker, so she often goes outside to smoke. Most times she's alone. About a week ago or so, A was outside smoking while her mom was watching the toddler. When she heard this clicking sound, similar to how one would summon a cat or a dog. Well, A's toddler just recently learned how to make that sound, and had been making that sound fairly frequently. So her initial thought was it was her daughter, but there was something really wrong with how it sounded. It didn't sound like her daughter. A said it almost sounded like someone trying to mimic her daughter, but couldn't go to do it right. A opened her front door to see if it was actually her daughter, but when she looked in at her daughter was sitting there quietly watching TV. She closed the door, still looking in, and heard the sound again. Her daughter hadn't moved from the position she was in. A looked toward the tree line and saw nothing. She heard a sound again. She looked towards the roof of her house and saw this weird fleshy thing that didn't look like anything or any animal she had ever seen. It looked at her and then jumped to the next tree to A's house. This is when she said the panic really hit her. We recently had a real bad storm that damaged that particular tree that this thing jumped on, so the tree had no branches and was very unstable. Even a bird would make it sway if it landed on the tree. So when she didn't see it sway or hear a thud, she got scared. A ran over to the tree and saw nothing, not even a shadow. She looked toward the tree line and didn't see anything, but felt very uneasy. Since that incident, every time she goes outside alone at night, she feels eyes on her and overall a sense of unease. On a few occasions, she'll hear bone-snapping crunches, similar to twigs snapping but louder and nastier, as well as growling. A said everything about it just seems off and totally wrong. Keep in mind this only happens when she's outside alone. Whatever is only targeting her. She also mentioned that sometimes when she flashes a light towards the tree line, instead of the usual yellow eyes that shine back, they are white. Alright guys, I hope you all enjoyed today's terrifying yet very informative upload. Great interview, terrifying encounters. It just doesn't get any better. With that, my friends, stay safe, stay healthy, and may the Great Spirit watch over us all and guide us down that path that we call life.